Next week.
Do you guys all have your scripts still?
I do.
I have mine.
It was on. Not sure where it was.
Got it? All right.
Yep.
You read the.
J. Crew, I
there's-
think.
Oh, there's proclamations, but you've got them.
I've got 'em right
Yeah,
there.
I don't, yeah, otherwise it's consent agenda. Yeah,
I didn't bring my laptop. I didn't figure I needed it.
Nah.
I have it, but I'm not going to pull it up. Are we ready? I hereby call the 2,269th meeting of the Milwaukee City Council to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First up, we have Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's a proclamation, and it will be introduced by Gary Marshke.
Marshke. Very good, though.
Darn.
Great try. It took me longer than that to get it right.
National Alliance on Mental Health of Clackamas.
Yes, National Alliance on Mental Illness, better known affectionately as NAMI Clackamas. I know that several of you know us. So before I do this, I would like to make sure that each of you get one of these. Thank you. This is our jumbo magnet and an invitation to our NAMI walk, which I will
Great.
mention when
Thank
I get
you.
into
Thank you.
my remarks. If I might know, I understand that you read the proclamation, not me. Right?
Unless you want to. You're welcome to do it.
You're welcome to do that. I think it'd be more official. So I just wanted to thank the council members. My name is Gary Marshke. I work for the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Clackamas County, affectionately known as NAMI Clackamas, as I mentioned. We have provided education, support, and advocacy for those affected by mental illness in Clackamas County since 1978. That's 40 years this year. So happy anniversary to us. I also want to recognize one of our board members in attendance, Laura Canada. We're here in recognition of May as Mental Health Month, as the mayor mentioned. It's also the month of the NAMI Walk, which is Sunday, and you each have your invitation for it. It's 1 o'clock on the East Bank Esplanade, and you can join over 6,000 people in celebrating May as Mental Health Month. You also have our jumbo hashtag Act for Mental Health magnet. It's not only a strong statement of support, but it's a great cover for any blemish you have in your car. Works really well. I know I've used it. Okay, and we also have lit up the Morrison Bridge. It's gone green from May 11th to May 25th in recognition of Mental Health Month as well. So a few quick facts before we get to the proclamation. 1 in 5 adults in the United States lives with a mental health condition. 1 in 5. That's 60 million people nationally and over 75,000 right here in Clackamas County. They face the day-to-day reality of living with a mental health condition. Individuals struggle with mental health conditions for an average of 10 years before they seek treatment. One of the leading causes for that is the stigma and the resulting discrimination. Stigma is when someone, including yourself, views you in a negative way, simply because you have a mental health condition. It's currently a virus that's spreading across the country in epidemic proportion. The good news is that it's completely curable, and there are several readily available antidotes, including education, compassion, and empathy. It's our sincere hope that this proclamation will simply be another touch point in our campaign to cure the stigma of mental illness. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Whereas mental health is part of everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas mental illnesses are prevalent in our country, in our county, state, and nation, whereas 1 in 5 adults experience a mental health issue in any given year, and 1 in 17 adults with mental illness such as major depression, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia lives with. Whereas stigma and the resulting discrimination is a primary obstacle to identification and effective treatment of individuals with mental illness and their ability to recover to lead full, productive lives. And whereas approximately half of chronic mental illness begins by the age of 14 and 3/4 by age 24. Wow. I'm going to read that again. Whereas approximately half of chronic mental illness begins by the age of 14 and 3/4 by age 24. And whereas suicide is the second leading cause of death of people ages 10 to 24, and whereas long delays of sometimes decades often occur between the time symptoms first appear and when individuals get help, and whereas it is important to maintain mental health, learn the symptoms of mental illness to get help. Wow, I'm having a hard time with this today. Whereas it is important to maintain mental health, learn the symptoms of mental illness to get help when it's needed, and cure the stigma and discrimination that too often interferes. And whereas each business, school, government, agency, healthcare provider, organization, and citizen shares the responsibility to cure the stigma and discrimination associated with mental illness. And whereas every citizen and community can make a difference in helping cure the stigma and discrimination that for too long has surrounded mental illness and discouraged people from getting help. And whereas public education and civic activities can encourage mental health and help improve the lives of individuals and families affected by mental illness. Now, therefore, I, Mark Gamba, Mayor of the City of Milwaukee, a municipal corporation in the County of Clackamas in the State of Oregon, do hereby proclaim May 2018 as Mental Health Month in Milwaukee to increase public understanding of the importance of mental health, to promote identification and treatment of mental illnesses, and to cure the resulting stigma and discrimination. And be it further resolved that all citizens, businesses, schools, and community organizations in Milwaukee recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illnesses, and are encouraged to take the Cure Stigma quiz at www.curestigma.org in observance of Mental Health Month.
It's a short quiz, by the way. 3 questions. Real easy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Law Enforcement Memorial Week, a proclamation. This will be introduced by the chief.
Thank you very much. In addition to Mental Health Awareness Month, May is also the month that we set aside to remember those law enforcement officers that have given the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. By the grace of God, we've been blessed around here. We haven't had a line of duty death since 1953, and that was Officer or Sergeant James Worrell. It was an interesting case. He worked in graveyard shift, backed up next to City Hall to kind of watch, I would imagine, the Main Street area on New Year's Eve. And I think it was one of the first patrol cars we actually even owned as a city police department. And the carbon monoxide kind of rolling off the back of the car and up around the City Hall ended up suffocating him, and he died in his patrol car. So it's not a story that we hear much about or tell much, but I think it's worth at least remembering. I mean, he was, from what I can understand and tell from the research, he was a family guy, had a wife and kids, and I think you expect to go to work, and there's always the risk that you live with that you're going to be assaulted feloniously or hurt somehow in the line of duty, but to go to work and simply die of a tragic accident must have been a shock for them. And it sounds like he was a pretty well-liked sergeant in the department and in the city as well. We had an opportunity yesterday to take Scott up to research his graves where he was buried last year and found it. So I took Scott up there yesterday, and we took some pictures at the site and just kind of remembered his sacrifice that he gave our community. But like I said, we've been blessed. We've had lots of close calls here, but we've always ended up on top. And but nationally, it still continues to be a problem. When we did this, we put this proclamation together. There were 51 officers that have been slain. I just checked, and in the week and a half, we've had 3 more, so a total of 54 already. So May has been a pretty tragic month. In addition to the 54 officers, we've lost 6 canines in the line of duty as well. So the number one killer continues to be gunfire, and then tragically accidents related to traffic crashes and different things like that while responding to calls and or getting struck by vehicles or something like that is a close second. So I told you guys last time I was here that I was going to bring something cool and exciting as opposed to something kind of a downer, but I think it is right and proper to kind of just take a minute and recognize the sacrifice that these officers make across the nation every day in protection of our families.
Agreed. Yeah. If I may, I might mention, too, that just last week, the full dedication of the law enforcement memorial that's at the Sunnybrook Sheriff's Office.
Correct.
Out in the front part was dedicated. And that memorial is now, I believe, complete with the honor guardsmen and the dogs and the gun belt and the hat. And so Milwaukee PD certainly had something to do with getting that completed through the Clackamas County Peace Officers Benevolent Foundation. So it's been a project of theirs for about 8 years now, and so it's finally totally come to fruition. And the names of all the fallen in Clackamas County, including anybody that might have been from Milwaukee, will continuously be listed on a plaque that's placed there.
Yep. If you haven't had a chance to see it, it's kind of a cool little memorial. It's a good thing to go by and see.
Yeah, it's on the front,
You did a good job
front
with it.
deck. Is that what they call it? Like
Yes.
the
Yeah.
patio that faces Sunnybrook. It's really nice. Yeah.
Chief,
Thank you.
if you mentioned in the second whereas that gunfire is the number one reason, which isn't surprising, but is very unfortunate, and I think it's a reflection of this country's gun laws, and I think that hopefully maybe Milwaukee can do whatever we can do to improve those circumstances. I know that we don't control gun policy at the federal or state level, but there are some smart ways that I think cities can look at gun control.
Well, there's been several issues on a national level that you guys don't necessarily control, but you've always been one to speak up about it and take a stand on it. So I think that's important as well.
Thank you.
Whereas since the first recorded death in 1791, more than 20,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. And whereas nationally, gunfire continues to be the number one cause of line of duty death for police officers. And whereas the Oregon Fallen Officers Memorial contains over 180 names of fallen Oregon officers, including Sergeant James Worrell of the Milwaukee Police Department, who died on December 31st, 1953. And whereas there have already been 51 officers killed in the line of duty across the nation in 2018. And whereas the citizens of Milwaukee wish to express their greatest appreciation for the sacrifice and service of those officers. Now, therefore, I, Mark Gamba, Mayor of the City of Milwaukee, a municipal corporation in the County of Clackamas in the State of Oregon, do hereby proclaim May 13th through 19th, 2018 to be National Law Enforcement Week in Milwaukee.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you, guys, always.
And Mayor, Peter Passarelli needed to be out tonight, so the Public Works piece is going to be introduced by Scott.
All righty.
I have a brief statement that Peter wrote about Public Works Week. It says, Since the 1960s, every May, the American Public Works Association has annually sponsored a National Public Works Week. This year, Public Works Week is May 20th through 26th, and the Public Works Department uses this week to energize and educate the public on the importance of public works in their daily lives. Our Public Works staff of 36 dedicated employees focuses their efforts on managing our infrastructure and facilities. They provide critical utility services such as water, storm, and sanitary sewer services to our community that are vital to the public health, well-being, and quality of life of our community members.
And I also just wanted to take an opportunity, and I didn't get to do this before the chief sat down, but to thank both staffs in both departments. We have been really incredibly lucky with the leadership teams in both locations. And I'm excited about the work they're doing, and I think this is a great highlight to that work. We've had some changes in both teams over the course of the last year, and I think that those are incredible hires, and we're really lucky to have the teams in place that we have. So just so the public knows, that's Peter Passarelli, who's our Public Works Director, Shane Hart, who recently moved up the ranks, Renelle Sears, who's been with us for quite a while and actually saved me during snowstorms of last year. She was on duty for all of those. And then Damian Farwell, who's our Facilities and Fleet Director. So we've been really very lucky on that team. And then, as you all know, Luke Strait joined our captain's ranks this year. So it's not often that we get to highlight those achievements, but I'm really excited about the team we have. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Public Works is one of those interesting things. Everyone takes it for granted, right? They expect when they turn on that tap, there's going to be water coming out. They expect when they flush that toilet, whatever they just did goes away. And when that stops working, that's a catastrophe, right? But nobody really thinks about the people that make that happen every day. And particularly in a city this old, the infrastructure is old in many cases. I think I was on council when the last wooden water pipe was replaced. Jeez. So we're still replacing clay pipe in this town. So it's an impressive job that they do to keep everything functioning.
Yeah.
So, whereas public works services are important to the health, safety, and well-being of Milwaukee citizens, and whereas these services are provided to dedicated public works professionals who oversee water distribution, water treatment, wastewater treatment, sewer systems, equipment services, public properties, solid waste systems, city streets, and water utilities, and whereas 2018 marks the 58th annual National Public Works Week, and this year's theme is the power of public works. Now, therefore, I, Mark Gamba, Mayor of the City of Milwaukee, a municipal corporation in the County of Clackamas and the State of Oregon, do hereby proclaim May 20th through 26th, 2018 as Public Works Week in Milwaukee.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, I will just briefly introduce our next proclamation, final proclamation of the evening. It's for Dogwood Day, which is May 21st. And the city is lucky to have several partners on this who've been partners with this in the community for decades. I'm pleased to introduce Linda Kidd and Phyllis Hines from the Daughters of the American Revolution, and Greg Heemer with Milwaukee Historical Society, who will provide more information about Dogwood Day.
Good evening. I'm Phyllis Hines. I'm the outgoing regent of the Susanna Lee Barlow chapter of DAR. The missions for the Daughters of the American Revolution are historic preservation, education, and patriotism. In supporting education, DAR supports Constitution Week and sponsors classroom teachers and students through a variety of opportunities to recognize their talents and their service to their communities. Members of DAR support and honor veterans and those currently in military service through activities such as comfort quilts for aging veterans, supplies for first-time parents in the service, and through the Vietnam War 50th Anniversary Commemoration Program. The Susanna Lee Barlow chapter, having just celebrated its 100th birthday, is active in supporting education and patriotism.
I was told to speak up, but what Greg doesn't know is that I am a retired teacher with a pretty good playground voice. But I'll do my best. You should be fine. In addition to DAR, DAR values historic preservation. In 1920, chapters were charged that every chapter collect data relative to historic spots in its vicinity, and if not otherwise marked, to memorialize them. Markers are currently for people, places, and events. This chapter's first marker was dedicated in 1923. In 1952, the chapter dedicated the Dogwood tree marker, commemorating the tree's scenic contribution to the community, and it was a bronze plaque placed on the home grounds of the Niedermeyer family. And that's where the tree was located on Harrison Street. The inscription was Dogwood tree, the native Pacific dogwood, over 100 years old, the largest in the United States, height 65 feet, circumference 7 feet. Susanna Lee Barlow, Chapter DAR, April 27th, 1952. In our cooperative work with the City of Milwaukee and the Milwaukee Historic Museum, this chapter continues to recognize Dogwood Days and looks toward a future move and rededication of the Dogwood tree marker.
I constantly have to yell at people to bring the mic closer to them, so I try to be conscious of that. Good evening, Mayor and councilors. Milwaukee Historical Society would like to thank City Recorder Office and for including us and DAR in the Dogwood Day celebration. Milwaukee Historical Society owns and operates the only museum in the world dedicated to the history of Milwaukee, located at 3737 Southeast Adams Streets. Our docents spend their volunteer time learning and expanding their knowledge about the history of Milwaukee. As we hold the largest archive on Milwaukee history, we are extremely qualified experts on our local history. We invite all to come in Saturdays 1 to 5 p.m. to research about their property, families, or any other question you may have about the city. May is a continuing celebration of our beloved Dogwood emblem seen on literature, our city website, and even manhole covers. We celebrate the Dogwood because Mayor Schindler and his wife bought property with a small dogwood in the front yard on the corner of 32nd and Harrison Street. The Dogwood became well known, and in 1952, after 100 years of nurture, protection, love, and admiration, the Dogwood was 65 foot tall and 7 foot round, with a canopy stretching over 50 feet. The American Tree Association proclaimed it the largest and oldest Pacific dogwood in the world. In 1962, the beloved tree became a casualty of the Columbus Day storm. But this tree stands for more than just a logo. It is the essence of Milwaukee. The roots represents the rivers and trees that provided shelter and food for Native Americans, power and product for the first settlers, fertile lands for our orchards and farms, and the playground for us today. The trunk represents our government and police, providing the energy and stability our residents need to strive. The branches are symbols of our neighborhoods and businesses, connecting ourselves to prosperity and security. The leaves represent the residents of Milwaukee, providing the lifeline and creating energy for Milwaukee to grow and strive. The flowers are symbols of the ideas brought forth from residents, starting as small buds, then blossoming into wonderful and adoring admiration. The seeds, they are our children. The ones, as they sprout their own tree, will carry the joy and values they learned from the dogwood tree. To learn more about the Dogwood celebrations and the Dogwood itself, join the Milwaukee Historical Society and DAR May 20th during the Sunday Farmers Market for a Dogwood display, and May 21st during lunchtime at City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whereas the beauty of the native Cornus nutali, or Pacific dogwood, was nurtured and cultivated by the earliest settlers of the Milwaukee area, and whereas this community was incorporated on May 21st, 1903 by the authority of the Oregon State Legislature and Governor George E. Chamberlain, and whereas on July 9th, 1962, the City Council designated the dogwood as the city's official flower, and the Dogwood City of the West is the city's nickname. And whereas by designating May 21st as Dogwood Day in the city is making note of our shared heritage with the earth and each other. And now, therefore, I, Mark Gamba, Mayor of the City of Milwaukee, a municipal corporation in the County of Clackamas, in the state of Oregon, do hereby proclaim May 21st, 2018 to be Dogwood Day in Milwaukee, the Dogwood City of the West.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Break with the agenda for just a sec. Would you guys mind coming back up, Chief and Captain? Something, the little exchange that you guys had, I'd like to explore a little bit more because it's something that's been on my mind since Florida. What would your, if you are King of America, what would your read be on what good gun policy would be? What would good gun control look like?
Want to handle that, Adam? Well, it's interesting. It's, as you know, two things. I'm a police officer that has to deal with the aftermath of gun violence, but I'm also a responsible gun owner. So it's, especially as a police chief, it's kind of hard to get up and take a political stance on a very political thing, just because as a non-elected official, we're supposed to, and especially as a police officer, we're supposed to say relatively apolitical on situations. I will tell you that I believe that every single gun owner needs to practice very responsible gun ownership. I believe that if you own a gun, you should have a safe, and it should be securely locked and placed away. I have a safe in my house that houses the guns that I own, and I'm the only one that has the combination, not because I have an irresponsible family or I don't trust my kids or I don't trust my family. It's just, for me, it's the way we're going to do business. I'm not going to put a 15 or a 16-year-old kid in the position of having the information and deciding whether to pull it out or, succumb to peer pressure to see something. So I think that there are ways to own firearms and still be very responsible for them. Now, that's not going to prevent every single tragedy. I think that most of the crimes that are committed with guns aren't necessarily legally obtained. So I think we need to have common sense rules about how to own and possess guns. But I think another thing we need to focus on is some of the other social issues within our nation that are causing these issues, such as drug addiction, mental health issues, providing services to people to where they don't get to the point where they're doing desperate things under desperate conditions. So, we talked last month about opioid addiction and some of the crimes that are associated with that and the lack of resources that are available to that. We had a presentation from NAMI today, and they talk about the lack of resources and the different things that they face on a daily basis. I mentioned to you before that, prior, when I first started here, we dealt with somebody in mental health crisis maybe once every other month, and it's how frequently it's become for us. So, I think we need to figure out a responsible way to own and possess guns. I think that we need to address those other social issues that are also as big a part of the problem as anything. So,
I don't know if you were asking him for a national gun control policy answer. I mean, you did sort of pose it that way, but I mean, a lot of that is certainly well beyond our scope. But there was a League of Oregon Cities article in their magazine, I want to say last summer, about some of the options that are available in terms of local regulation in Oregon, and there are some things we could explore.
Well, I mean, the chief's point was well taken. We do advocate for things that are outside of our control all the time. Right? We've done resolutions, and we've done, I've gone down countless times to Salem to testify on various bills and things. And, you know, when I'm, particularly when I'm exploring an issue that I think is fraught with sort of emotional extremes, I look to people who have to deal with it on a day-to-day basis. In other words, kind of the experts. And at least for, you know, to start the process of what is the right answer. Right. And so that was all. It's really more of a kind of an exploration of that.
Yeah, I think one thing that's important to remember is that a lot of these folks that have been involved in active shooter type situations, there was signs leading up to the incident, and a lot of people will, and you can maybe do this even with your own kids. You'll say, well, my kid wouldn't do that, or my kid wouldn't do this, and you want to kind of overlook things that, because you don't necessarily want to believe it. It could be as simple as like your kid using marijuana or something. You don't want to believe that they would do this or that, and so you might overlook some of the signs that in retrospect later when you catch them red-handed, you should have seen it coming. But I think a lot of these things happen, and there's been signs along the way, and people have been afraid to say something because A, they don't want to damage the relationship, or they don't want to big deal something and embarrass somebody when it's not them, or they're afraid of, you know, retribution or anything. But you know, with things like suicide and active shooter and mental health issues and stuff like that sometimes lead to this type of activity. Don't be afraid to talk to your loved ones. Don't be afraid to have conversations with them and just bring it up. It may be difficult to do. It may damage your relationship for a little bit, but it can be mended, and those things can, and the life you save may be theirs. Because a lot of these circumstances don't end up in a good solution for them as well. They're oftentimes end up taking their own life as a result of the activity that they're involved in. So.
All right. Thanks.
Hopefully I didn't dodge your question too much, but.
No, I
Just
you know.
enough.
Just enough.
Good response. Good response.
Was there panic over there in that corner?
No, I mean, to be fair to the chief, I think that he's also in a very difficult situation in this conversation.
Sure.
In that he has to have the trust of people on all sides of this political issue, that they call him when they're in need. So I think, you know, he and I have talked over the last year and a half about trying to make sure that he remains the phone call, the person that someone can call if they have questions or fears. And so I also respect his need to make sure he's always that one phone call away.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, and I have to be able to represent everybody in our community, whether you're Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative or apolitical. So for me to take a position on a political issue sometimes isn't the best solution for folks.
I know. I just find some of these issues like this one should not be political, right? It's really, there's some right. reality happening, and that it's become a political issue is actually kind of sad.
Yeah,
but anyway.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much, and thank you both for your service.
Appreciate it. It's been a great 30 years so far.
Well, let's keep it that way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on tonight's consent agenda, we have the council meeting minutes of the April 3rd, 2018 work session, the April 3rd, 2018 regular session, and the April 10, 2018 study session. We have a resolution authorizing an agreement with the Milwaukee Police Employees Association for a 2-year collective bargaining agreement effective July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2020. And we have a resolution authorizing the purchase of C800 compatible radios. Does any member of council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda?
No.
I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously. Audience participation. Are you wanting to speak again? Then I'm going to guess we don't have anybody that will. Okay. So since we're not doing that, Ms. Ober, do we have anything to report from the last meeting?
There were no public comments at the last
Okay.
meeting, but thanks.
So, other business, budget committee membership recruitment.
We do not need a motion. We just need, well, we need you guys to ask us to let the position, basically, for the board.
Because we have had a member of the budget committee who has not been participating for several months and has not formally resigned, but we have the authority to treat it as a resignation, as essentially a vacancy. And so we're asking staff to go forward with recruiting a new
Budget committee member.
budget committee member. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, perfect. Thank you. We will get the recruitment posted. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
So if
All
you
right,
want
I'll
to do.
go ahead and do the script, and then I'll do the announcement on the executive session. All remaining plants in the Letting Library plant sale are now 50% off. Oh, I feel like a TV news anchor. The plants are located at the Pond House and in front of the library. The sale will take place through Thursday, May 17th. 2 more plant sales are coming up this weekend. The Oak Lodge Garden Club plant sale is on Saturday, May 19th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 15334 Southeast La Bonita Way. The Ardenwell Johnson Creek NDA will hold their annual plant sale on Sunday, May 20th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at 3012 Southeast Balfour Street. Proceeds from the plant sale benefit the continued development of Balfour Park. Next Monday, May 21st, is Dogwood Day in the city of Milwaukee. A celebration of the day will take place at City Hall between 11 and 1 p.m., 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. In the meantime, you can celebrate Milwaukee's Dogwoods by joining the city's Instagram contest. Just follow at City of Milwaukee, snap and post a photo of a dogwood tree, blossom, etc., and use the pound Milwaukee Dogwood or hashtag Milwaukee Dogwood. Anyway, winners will be announced on May 21st.
Every time.
Every time. It's an age thing. Share your favorite Letting Library memories and enjoy photos from the building's 53 years at the Letting Library Goodbye Party and Open House on Wednesday, May 23rd at 3 p.m. from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Help plan more and better public transit at TriMet's Budget Workshop on Wednesday, May 23rd at Milwaukee High School. A light dinner will be provided, and childcare and interpretation services are available upon request. For each workshop, the first 75 people to RSVP and attend will receive a $25 gift card to Fred Meyer. To learn more and RSVP, find the event on the city calendar at www.milwaukeeoregon.gov. Be a part of the climate planning process and join us on Thursday, May 31st for a Climate Action Summit at the Waldorf School Gym, which is located at 2300 Southeast Harrison Street. A Climate Action Fair will run from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m., and the summit program will go from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. The summit will include opportunities to learn about climate change, discuss your thoughts with your neighbors and city staff, and help refine strategies that will preserve what we love for future generations. Light refreshments, Spanish translation, and childcare will be provided. Please RSVP by May 24th and note if you need childcare when RSVPing. You can RSVP by sending email to marstonb@milwaukeeoregon.gov. Learn more on the city's homepage at www.milwaukeeoregon.gov. That's all I have.
So the farmers market's in full swing. It's been great. We didn't start with any rainy weeks this year, which is normally how we start. And before we meet again, we don't meet again until June, right? So there's a first Friday before we, maybe, I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah,
first Friday's coming up in June.
June 1st.
June 1st. Okay, there you go.
By Little opens that night.
That's right. That's the big art show, Little by Little. And you can then pick up one of these, which Alma Flores, sitting out here in the audience, did this downtown walking map, which is beautiful, and look for it around town. Some of the downtown businesses should have it. A kiosk in front of City Hall has them, etc. So.
Anything else? All right. Upon adjournment of the regular session, council will meet in executive session pursuant to Oregon Revised Statute 192.6602E to deliberate with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
I don't know, so moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. We are adjourned.
We do.